Thank you for tuning in to Tim's Turbo's channel. Now, if you're in the market on buying a whole set turbocharger, here's a crash course on which ones to buy, which ones not to buy, and who's lying to you about what turbocharger you're actually buying. So I'm going to start out with the early generation, the H1C and the H1E. First thing about those is all those run a seal plate. Seal plate drops into the inside and it's connected to the bearing housing with 4 bolts. All the H1Cs and H1Cs are going to have a V-band style setup. And so anytime you're trying to identify one, the quickest way is aluminum seal plate and a V-band cover. Now, they use the bolted on bearing housing as well. The next model up, you're going to look at the HX35s and the HX40s. They run a large bearing register for the compressor pocket. It's about almost twice the size of the HE351s. You can see when it goes into the HX35 cover, it slides in, it's going to be held in with a snap ring. It's not your traditional snap ring. It's got 2 little tabs on it that you can use a pair of pliers if you're daring, or you can use the right pair of snap ring tools. Keep in mind, when this thing comes off the snap ring tool, it's about 100 miles an hour and it will find any window in your shop. So that's an HX. The HX40s are going to have the same design. The next step is the HY35 and the HE351. Now it has a different bearing housing on the turbine and the compressor. So there's not really any integrating parts on these. You can tell these because they have a small bearing register. This is an HY35. Fits in there like that. HE351 cover. You can tell these because they have a little boost signal reference part there. They run the same pocket. Some have different depths on that lip right there. Another hybrid you can see, you're probably not going to see it much because I make it custom for a few shops, is the HY35 with an HX35 turbine structure. So this is a custom little setup. It's not going to see it much. Now, which one should you buy? Personally, my favorite one is the HXs, especially when they're running this compressor cover, because this cover's got the 3-inch inlet and it's got the 2-inch outlet, which mimics a lot of TO4Es and TO4Bs, which are pretty popular. If you're running on the Porsche 944s, it'll clear the intake. On the DSMs, if you run a 3-inch mass airflow sensor, you can just run a straight coupler to it. It seems to clear a lot of the radiators when it's tucked in there. You can see it's just a little bit smaller than the regular HX and HX40. Highly recommend this. We can make this housing from 40 millimeter up to 62 millimeter pretty much. So, not to get mixed up with some of the other stuff, this is a S300G. It uses the V-band style compressor cover, which comes on a lot of the Holset on the Dodge trucks. The one you're going to see the most on the early trucks, people surfing in the junkyards and stuff like that, you're going to see a V-band style compressor cover on the HX35. It's a great cover. What a lot of people do when they don't have this piece, they'll modify it. This is a modified cover. It's got the V-band that's been ground off and stuff. It works fine. Sometimes you'll slip a hose on it, run a little hairspray on there. You'd be surprised how much boost it'll hold after that. Now all these turbochargers can be rebuilt here. We modify them all in-house. We can change all the compressor wheels. We have an in-house CNC machine we do work with. Which ones you should buy? You probably want to stay away from the HE351s and the HYs just for turbine purposes because they have a smaller turbine housing and they only have one, so the structure of it's not going to really fit. You have to modify all your pipes to fit it. The HEs and the HXs pretty much use the same turbine housing. You can integrate those. You can't integrate the covers though. The technology on the H1Cs, H1Es It's getting pretty outdated. They came out in the late 70s. You can see the thrust bearing on this one is an H1C. It's got only one oil flow port. The HX is much more modern 360 design. It's going to have more surface area. It's going to have dual ports for the oil. More stable at high boost and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with the H1Es or the H1Cs, except they're very limited. They're out of production, except for aftermarket stuff. Upgrading them is just as expensive as upgrading an HX. So why not just use modern turbo and that stuff? So I hope I cleared it out with a crash course. I'll probably be doing a course on all the different Porsche turbochargers next month. Hope to help you out with that. Thanks for listening.